Good morning. Welcome to my channel, Forever Altered. I haven't been real consistent with my videos, mostly because I've been working really hard and a lot of hours, and I guess I've been working a lot just to have something else to do than to have to spend time with the narc in my life. But over the past couple of days, a few things happened that I thought I wanted to share, because I know others suffer with the same type of treatment and being talked to the same way, but a lot of what you find on YouTube is talking about survivors who've gotten out, and my main focus has been for those of us that for one reason or another are still in a relationship, still stuck in a relationship with a narc, that there would be a support system for them. I'm 7 years with a narc, and I could go on about reasons why. I'm still with him. One thing, we share a daughter together. She's 6 now, and I literally fear how I would co-parent with him, how he would co-parent with me. If it could be worse, if anything could be worse, probably co-parenting with him would be worse than this. So I've tried to stay as much of a distance as I can from him. I'm lucky I have an office that sits behind my house that is basically a small 2-bedroom house, and I've converted it to sort of a big giant she shed with my office in it, and I spend the majority of my time back here. That gives me the distance to keep me sane. But one of these days, I'll figure out an exit plan. One of the things I noticed with a lot of people, they can leave their narcissistic person. In my case, I own the house, and I'm a business owner, and I have a business in this town. I have a couple of businesses, but so I can't leave. It's my house. I've had it way before I ever met him, and when I try to kick him out, he says the only way he'll go, excuse me, is if I, go evict him. He won't leave willingly. And the reason for that is he has nowhere to go, because he's got such a difficult personality that he has no attachments at all except my daughter and I, and his 2 sisters and mother that live many states away. He texts back and forth and occasionally talks to them on the phone, but mostly just texts them. So basically he has nobody. Why does he have nobody? Because he is a terrible person. Because he is has a very bad violent temper. Not to the point of physical harm, but he's 6'5", 300 pounds, and he has a temper that goes off suddenly and instantly if he feels provoked or threatened in any way. So what I have with him, he calls a relationship, is really just a convenient place for him to stay. And if I push him to leave, instantly he says that I'm cheating. There's got to be a reason. It's somebody. It's the guy. This situation. It's the guy that came to look at my leaking roof to fix it, who has fixed a few things for me in the past. And in this, I'm gonna play you a clip, a couple of clips, but in one, that's the situation there. So I don't want to make this a super long video, and I just wanted to share a narc in action, what they sound like in action, and how demeaning they are to their spouses, and how that there's no reasoning with them. So in this first clip was the other day, and then the next one would be the next morning. In the first clip, our 6-year-old, we were out in the yard, and she was behaving badly. She was behaving badly. She needed her little butt kicked, and he sent her in the house to sit in the chair. But in the process of doing that, and she mouthed off to him, and he said, she's got a lot of anger now at him, and that's partly why. But he sent her in, and as she was going in, he got up and walked behind her, and he kept saying to her, "Say something now." And he was telling her he was going to snatch her up and smack her butt. And he kept saying, "Say something now. Say it now." And which I don't like, because that's provoking her. What is she supposed to, how is she supposed to respond to that? And then they went in the house, he shut the door, and I could hear him, and he was saying the F word. It was flying. So I got up and went in the house. And then he exited back out and sat down. And then we had this conversation where I tried to tell him that I don't think he should be saying the F word in front of her, and that he shouldn't be provoking her by saying that, say something now. He should, mostly he should say something like, "You need to go in the house. That was very disrespectful. I think you need to sit down and think about it for a while." Something, adult-like. But instead, that's not how he responded. I have gotten to the point where I literally hit record on my phone all the time, and because I'm so concerned that there's going to be some major episode. And I'm glad I did this time, because this first one will be just me trying to tell him about it. And then I'll lead into the second video, which was the next morning. I slept back in my office. We have a bed back there, and my daughter slept back there too. And fortunately, she was still asleep when he came back in and, created a scene again. And I had told him after that, I said, and I've said this many times, I am so done. I just want this over. I want to end this relationship. I've said it so many times. And every single time it evokes this huge rage. So this is no different. So the first one will be us talking after he's come out of the house, after saying the F word and, fucking this, fucking that, So this is the first one. And it may be a little hard to hear because there's traffic, but it's about five minutes or so.
I couldn't even understand what I was saying. She wanted me to hurry up and open the box.
I'm just saying.
But she won't stop.
Huh? I understand the frustration. It's not true. I deal with. I'm just saying. Yeah, I know that.
I don't care.
I'm just saying. You're intimidating because your size and stuff, and you don't need to.
Yank your ass in the house. It's over several times today. I even made her go put her bike up. I can name like 6
I understand.
10 times today of this that's come to this.
I get it. I understand.
With this, spraying me, smacking me in my back, putting her in the corner in the house over here back here. Time to shut it down.
This is me trying to figure out how to discuss this topic without him blowing up. The pause.
Well, she's mad at you now.
Not mad. Just sitting there looking at me for let her do whatever. I said, "Can I say anything?" And I just woke up and said, "I'm over sorry." When she said, "I'm sorry," she goes, "Oh shit, man." That's what I was supposed to do.
All I was trying to say is the F word and stuff. You're talking to a 6-year-old. That's all I'm asking is for you to notch it down a little bit, huh?
Didn't know I said that.
Oh, you did. That's why I got up.
I got her attention. I said, okay, I do that. I said the word that's going to jump up on me.
I know.
In the face today.
You did. Many
I
times.
wanted her to say something back on the way there so I can bust her ass on the way in the door.
But you encouraged her to say it by saying, say something. That's provoking.
Yeah, I don't care, Dr. Phil.
No, I'm not trying to be Dr. Phil. Please talk to me as a person and a partner.
Not them.
What?
You're talking to me.
You're right, I'm talking to you, exactly.
Take it down a notch.
What do you mean? I'm talking too loud? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, one. Two, take it something simple. Where you want to take it and start not.
No, I'm not.
On your phone, text whoever or whatever you do, it doesn't matter.
John, why do you always do this? Why do you always... Don't say, why are you still talking? I'm trying to have a... No, you're the one that ventured off of Zoe. No, I'm not. They're old and they can't hear me. I'm not
We have
talking
an acre
about
and a half property, and our neighbors are quite a distance away.
I'm more worried. I know that. I'm not talking loud. I'm almost whispering.
Screaming in my yard every day.
What?
I could be the white trash around me screaming in my yard every day.
Why? Because their stuff is more visible. It doesn't, just because it's not visible doesn't mean it's not there. What does that have to do with anything? You just said I could be the white trash screaming in my yard. We have major issues in our house, so that's just as important to address than the screaming people in the yard that everybody hears. Just because no one hears it doesn't mean it's not a problem. That's what I meant.
Oh my God! Shut up! What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm trying to talk about the fact that every time we have an issue, you don't care and you don't want to talk about anything, and then you wonder. I'm not trying to argue.
Shut the fuck up then. Learn to leave somebody the fuck alone then.
You know what? You're the king of not leaving someone alone. I can't have a discussion. I cannot have a discussion with you.
If you don't stop talking to me right now like you're talking to them, or you want people to hear this, I'm gonna fucking go off.
I don't want anybody to hear.
And with that, I got up and walked in the house. Okay, so the second clip is the next morning. He came back to the back in the morning, and Zoe was still asleep. And I stupidly let him in, and he started in pretty much right away. So, but I hit record on my phone, but I didn't get the beginning part of it. In the beginning part of it, he told me how I was a terrible mother, and I said, John, this is my 5th child I've raised. My oldest son, who was killed in a car wreck when he was 18, and then I adopted 3 girls from foster care. I was a foster parent, actually. And then my daughter Zoe, who was born 25 years after my first biological child. So this is my 5th child I've raised, and I raised 3 girls from foster care who all had problems. My oldest daughter was molested as a young girl, 7, and that's the reason why she was taken from her family. And the younger 2, the middle daughter, she has fetal alcohol syndrome because her bio mom drank when she was pregnant with her. And my younger one was diagnosed bipolar and reactive attachment disorder when she was little. But 2 of them are married. 1 of them is engaged. The oldest one has 3 living children, and she lost a baby. And she still has issues. She does have issues. She's had issues with being real promiscuous because of being molested. But the younger 2 are married, and they each have 1 little girl, and the middle one has 1 on the way. Even with fetal alcohol syndrome, she does pretty darn good. They're not perfect, and they're not doctors, but they're happy, and there's more to life than that. I have a master's degree. this person, John, has nothing. He has a GED. But I'm not saying anything bad about that, but I'm just saying he who has a son he hasn't seen in 11 years or more is telling me that I'm a bad parent. And he always says things like that, and he will say, he has hurt our daughter 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, he watches her when I work, and I do work a lot. But often he's asleep in the morning, and so I watch her and work, because I work from home, in the morning, and then he gets her when he gets up. And the day before, he had gotten her at 1 o'clock. He woke up and then got her at 1 p.m. So I had her from when she woke up at 9, and I've multitasked and worked until 1 when he got her. So here's the continuation. And this is already midstream because I didn't catch it in the beginning. And what I wanted to say is he actually said to me, I said, I have 5 children. She's my 5th. And he said, yeah, and they're whores. And he said, where are they? Your oldest one's dead. Like that was my fault, that he was killed in a car wreck that I was not a part of. And then he proceeded to say how my daughters were all whores. But he always says stuff like that. He always says stuff like that. Anyway, so this is the continuation of that. So he'll be talking about the day before, and then he goes off on a huge tangent, which is the whole point of this video, is the threats that they make to you, which complicates your choices in leaving, especially if the house is yours. If the house is yours, without major legal intervention, you're not sure how to get out of it. And in most cases, narcs are so much involved in illegal behavior that they make all kinds of threats to take you down with them. And he does that in this, which he's done to me many times. And I have to tell you, I do have a fear that could happen, which is partly why I haven't pushed to the point of getting him out of here. So here goes.
Is that lessening?
One day that you had her for whatever, and 6 or 7 hours until that I had her, doesn't matter. You take away, you put it at a certain time. Like I had her.
He's mad because I said I had her till
everything I do.
You don't hear that you lessen it for me, and that's why I respond that way to you?
Lessen what?
You said you had her all day.
What she done all day. And then blaming me for finally saying, and I told you before it happened, I'm about to get up and take her in or be in her ass in a minute.
And I was just trying to talk to you about saying fucking this and fucking that, because that's the reason why I got up, because I could hear you in here talking to a 6-year-old using the fuck word.
Yeah, it's hard.
And I was trying to talk to you about it, but we have no relationship. We cannot talk about anything without this. I know you don't want to talk about nothing, do you?
Nothing to talk about. I don't do that every day. I don't need nobody's fucking shit when I don't do something every day. It happened finally. It's almost like white people trying to prosecute me when that stupid cunt bitch didn't raise her fucking child
prior
right.
relationship problem that he blamed.
Only needing, and then fucking beats her goddamn kid, and then turns around and says, and they act like somebody beat somebody. Shut up.
That's not
act like somebody beat somebody forever or something when he got his ass whooped once. My point is, I jumped up and talked shit to stop her bullshit once. I'm not going to be prosecuted, persecuted, treated like garbage. Everything I've done, taken away.
I was just trying to talk about it. I wasn't trying to.
I jumped up in her face once. I'm going to jump up in her face when she smacks me, squirts me, this, that, the other, blah, blah, blah. And had I left with you, she would have left you with the same attitude. You'd have jumped her ass too.
Never as hard as you do.
It don't matter just because I cursed, doesn't mean I was in her face or scaring her or nothing. I stood way the hell over here, she sat down, and I said, you want to fucking say something to me now?
Yeah, you said, say something now, say something now. You provoked and provoked and provoked.
She didn't.
No, that's provoking.
No,
yes,
I'm not provoking. She's not going to.
What is she supposed to do? What would be the proper response?
She's supposed to walk in here quietly and understand that
you're not supposed to say something now. You're not supposed to keep
doing that. She's just got herself in trouble. That's what she did. So
John, I don't want to talk. Yeah, I'm like you. We don't get anywhere, so therefore, I really don't want to talk about anything.
Good. Next time that motherfucker's here, I'm saying something. If I find out anything, I'm gonna put bullets in 2 people's heads. Nobody's playing games with me while I take care of her like I'm some piece of shit dumb nigger.
What are you
Nobody's doing nothing to me ever again, or I'm killing them. I don't give a fuck.
What are you talking
I made up my motherfucking mind. Somebody snitches, somebody tries to fuck me over, somebody tries to act like I didn't do shit, somebody tries to do anything. And I'm gonna make the news.
You're saying this because I'm telling you I'm done and I don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore?
You didn't say that.
Yes, I did.
Oh, you're recording, fat and ugly bitch.
Wow.
Grow some hair, fat ass.
And that's pretty much your life if you live with a narc. That's pretty much how a rageful narc acts. So, I don't know what else to say. I'm to the point where I've heard so many insults that they just flow off my back like water off a duck's back. But this, and let's talk about what happens after that. After something like this, this particular narc, goes right along his merry way like nothing happens. Literally. You can, text him something saying, I told you I was done, whatever. He won't read it. He won't respond to it. He won't acknowledge it. And the next day, it never happened. It never happened. It didn't hurt you. You're supposed to be, go about your merry way, and everything is normal, and you're going to play with your daughter in the yard all together as a family. So, I don't even know where to go with it. I know that if you live with a narc, you've heard the same stuff. And because I started recording because of that, and I started uploading what I recorded in the event that he ever did follow through with any of the threats he's made. He makes random threats. This is a person who I caught cheating for about 4 out of 5 years. At the 5-year mark, I found out that he had been cheating. I actually put spyware on his phone and found out that he had been cheating and had actually numerous hookups in motel rooms with total strangers, and also had 2 simultaneous long-standing relationships, whatever you want to call them. Narcs don't have relationships, but with 2 different women. One was for 4 years and one was for 3 years. And I actually talked with both of those women. I actually met one in person. And, they told me their stories and how they found out there was a me and all these, interesting things. It was many things had happened over the years, and I was so sure that was what was going on because he kept saying I was cheating. I was doing this. I was cheating. I'm a whore. I'm this. I'm that. And that's when I started watching videos and actually typed in this list of weird things that narcs do and popped narcissistic, abuse and all this, and and personality disorder, and I started studying it, and that's when I realized even if he never gets a diagnosis, I know what I'm looking at. I worked in mental health for almost 10 years. Not a therapist, but I worked doing treatment plans as a case manager and a care manager, and I had to work right with therapists, and I had to use the DSM-V criteria, and as they were progressing through case management, I had to identify the different behaviors and make sure that it still lined up with their current diagnosis, and if it didn't, and if it lined up with a better diagnosis, something that was more suitable as the case progressed, then it was my job to suggest that to the therapists, and then they would review it, and if they felt I was right, they would change the diagnosis. So I've studied the DSM-V, and I know what it is. I know what I'm looking at. Anyway, I would welcome comments, and if you've lived something similar, I would welcome it. And if you have dealt with a narc who is living in your home and won't leave and threatens you with basically ruining your business, your life, telling all kinds of lies about you and sucking you into their illegal crap, and saying they'll blame it on you and they have proof it was you and all this stuff that gets slung at you in those heated moments right there, or the death threats, or a death threat because someone came and looked at my leaky roof. So that person that I happen to know his name and he's done other work for me comes to look at my leaky roof to give me a quote on the roof, and his response, because I'm done with him and his behavior, is that there has to be another reason. It cannot be that I don't want him because he is a terrible person. It has to be somehow my fault. Something that I'm doing, it's my fault, so therefore I'm cheating with this roof guy, apparently. So anyway, I would really like to see your comments and suggestions. If anyone has any wonderful suggestions about how to move someone out without, I can handle somewhat of a smear campaign, but being a business owner in a very small town where everyone knows you, is scary. The cops here don't like him because he has made threats and verbally he's yelled at them before, literally yelled at them. Even recently, like a neighbor had to call an ambulance for her autistic daughter, and a cop came that he didn't like. This was about 2 weeks ago, and he was sitting in the yard and he yelled over to the cop terrible things. So this same person who didn't want me to speak above a whisper, trying to address a problem we were having with our daughter and how he responded, was yelling 2 weeks before that across the yard at the neighbor, which is quite a distance. And they obviously heard, but anyway, so take care, and I'll try to share some more of my audio. I have hours and hours and hours and hours of it.